meditation and relationship. Meditation is about relationship. This is not how it is often packaged or presented in the media. In a hyper-individualistic culture like ours, health is seen to be a very individualistic thing. My health. This hyper-individualistic sense of self means that we look not only at medicine but at meditation in this very self-centered way. What's this going to do for me? Well, that may be where you start, and you start where you are. But it's also why it is so important the way the meditation is taught. In what direction is it pushing you? Is it towards a deeper and more inflated self-centeredness? It will eventually blow up in your face, of course. Or is it the beginning of a training in attention, that attention becomes comprehensive rather than just self-centered? In other words, about relationship. And one of the very first areas in which we experience the changes of meditation in our life is in our relationships, beginning in our relationship with ourselves. Success. It's not about doing better than the next person, seeing life in terms of continuous competition and the struggle for survival and supremacy, but it's about how to be with others on the journey in a relationship of mutual support and encouragement. And children get that too. Children can see that when they meditate together, there's less bullying in the classroom. The experience of children is quite simply that they get on better with each other and they're happier. One child said in a class, I noticed that if you ask people to do something before meditation, they often say no. But after meditation, they'll say yes. This little girl said to me, if I've had a fight with someone and we wouldn't say sorry to each other, but when we meditated, we said sorry. So meditation creates community, as we know. We were talking yesterday about the absence of eye contact in some of those relationships. And clearly, if you're not aware of what the person in front of you that you're talking to looks like, you're probably not going to have that quality of awareness when you come to the decisions that you have to make. If you're feeling tired, emotionally empty, then that is not a good state for a healer to be in. The first responsibility then, for any of us, is to heal ourselves. Physician, heal thyself, as Shakespeare said. So, the fact that this is a responsibility is very obvious when we look at this in the terms of meditation. No one can force you to meditate. In fact, no one can persuade you to meditate. There's no argument in the end that's going to make you decide to meditate. Of course, you need to hear about it. You need to hear about it in a good way, and you need some support. We all need that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be your choice to begin. So our first responsibility, if we want to be in a relationship, and if we want that relationship to be a healthy one and a healing one and a caring one for the people we are in relationship with, our first responsibility to others is to be as healthy and as happy as we can be ourselves. And that involves not being too hard on ourselves when we fail. To, in other words, incorporate the sense of failure into our practice and learn from failure, as we say. The practice of meditation gives us a deepening experience of wholeness. And we begin to realize that attention or awareness is something completely natural. It's the default to which we keep returning. But however fit or metabolically efficient your body may be, you're not really healthy if you are self-fixated and unaware of those around you. You can hardly call that a state of health, of being healthy or being whole. I was standing on the other side of the road recently across the way from a supermarket, and I watched this woman come out carrying several overloaded bags. As she came out, an item fell out of one of the bags onto the ground. And of course she was in a dilemma. What should she do? Because she couldn't lean down to pick it up because she was carrying these other bags. Imagine what what we would all feel like in the situation. You start to process certain options. One would be to put all the bags down and pick up your bar of soap and put it back in. But then, quite difficult then to pick up all these bags again from the ground. So you could imagine all of this was going through her mind. So she was just standing there for a few seconds, wondering about what to do. And then, of course, somebody came up and picked up the item for her and put it into the bag for her, which in other circumstances would have been a bit intrusive. But because somebody is in need, you allow them in a little bit more into your private space. It was a gesture of kindness. Could easily have been intrusive and presumptuous, but because she was in need, it was received as a small act of kindness. Now, the person who did that then, like any good Samaritan should, just disappeared. It was clear that he wasn't doing this for any self-interest, and just smiled and walked on, and she said thank you, and it was all over and done with. Now, you could imagine different ways of encountering that incident. You could, for example, have been standing there, watching her come out, lost in your own thoughts, and you see this little incident, this discomfort that she was facing, and you just look at it, and you wonder what she's going to do. Or you might even take out your camera and take a picture of it. And it's surprising, actually, that there's a high percentage of the population who would do just that. That would be as far as it went. Some people would not be aware of it at all, wouldn't even notice it, but others would observe it with a kind of observational awareness, but without response, without that spontaneous, natural, kind response of the person who didn't think about what they were doing. They just instinctively, intuitively, and spontaneously came forward, saw the problem, picked it up, and put it in the bag for her. So you might be completely unaware of what's going on around you, just totally blind to people's needs, or you might observe those needs, but without any sense of attention. It's when awareness becomes attention, and attention is always personal. So it's really when you move from just sort of animal awareness to human attention that we begin to see the place of compassion and the source of compassion. So compassion arises out of this awareness, and it's natural. You don't have to be a saint to feel concern for somebody suffering, but it's attention, personal attention, which then translates that into action and into, therefore, real relationship. So our faculty of attention has to be developed. And I think that's what parents and teachers try to do for children, to not only get them through exams or to learn certain basic skills, but also to think of the needs of others, to be polite, to be courteous, and to learn to pay attention, not just to be aware, but to pay attention. First of all, though, of course, you need to have enough spare memory in order to be able to see it. If you're hyper-distracted and rushing and your mind is racing, then you may not even notice it at all. Even the first level of awareness is missing entirely. And if you don't have the first level of awareness, it can't develop into attention, and it won't be focused in compassion. The root of awareness then taps into the spring of compassion. It brings care and attention together. That's what the prefix med means, if you remember. Meditation, medicine. It means care and attention, which is the skill set of any healer and of all healing relationships. They say that regular meditators have thicker brains than other people and more active frontal lobes. These tests, brain research on meditators, shows a decrease in the activity in those parts of the brain that forms the sense of space and time. And that makes sense. One of the reasons you perhaps feel less stressed after you meditate, because time is less of a pressure, and you also feel more empathy. You feel closer to other people rather than separated or alienated from them. And perhaps this illustrates, it doesn't explain, but it illustrates, perhaps, why meditation leads to a deeper sense of unity, which is our feeling of wholeness shared with another person. It certainly makes us feel better to feel whole, and that our fragmented and distracted and anxious self recovers peace and harmony and a sense of togetherness and integration. And we feel we're together. I got myself together, we say. That feeling of being drawn into a unity or wholeness. And that's certainly beneficial, and it's certainly a better way of living. But as soon as we do begin to experience our own wholeness, we then discover, amazingly, we can share this feeling of personal wholeness with others and all our relationships.